Order. I will call Bambos Charalambous to move the motion, then the Minister to respond. There will not be an opportunity for the member in charge to wind up, as is the convention in these 30-minute debates. Order. Bambos Charalambous to move the motion.
Thank you. I beg to move that this House is considered International Thalassaemia Day 2022. And it's a pleasure to serve on your chairmanship, Mr. Hosey. The 8th of May is International Thalassaemia Day, and this year's message is be aware, share, care. The first part of the message is raising awareness. So what is thalassaemia? Thalassemias are inherited blood disorders that lower, alter or stop the production of haemoglobin in the blood. This leads to anemia, which may be severe or life-threatening if not managed appropriately. There are several types of thalassaemia depending on the severity of the mutation inherited. The most severe type is beta thalassaemia major, or transfusion-dependent thalassaemia, followed by beta thalassaemia intermediate and hemoglobin H disease. Those living with transfusion-dependent thalassaemia receive blood transfusions every 3 weeks for life and daily iron chelation therapy. All these patients develop secondary conditions and complications due to thalassaemia and iron overload. They sadly develop conditions such as diabetes, heart failure, osteoporosis and liver failure. Patients therefore have to spend an awful lot of time in hospital, whether it is for blood transfusions for thalassaemia or for the treatment and monitoring of secondary conditions. Thalassaemia is not transmitted by transfusion, infection, environmental conditions or other factors, but is recessively inherited. It's more prevalent in individuals with Caribbean, South American, African, Mediterranean, South Asian, Southeast Asian and Middle Eastern ancestry. Due to migration over centuries, it's found throughout the world, and it's estimated that there are 100 million people worldwide with the thalassaemia trait who are asymptomatic. The prevalence of thalassaemia varies across different regions in the UK, and data published by the 2020 by the National Haemoglobin Empathy Registry, the NHR, indicates there are over 900 people living with beta thalassaemia major in the UK, 238 people living with beta thalassaemia intermediate, 280 people living with beta thalassaemia HBE disease, and 300 people living with hemoglobin H disease. The majority of patients with thalassaemia in the UK come from a British, Pakistani or British Asian community. Each year, around 20 to 30 couples are identified as being at high risk of having a baby with a form of thalassaemia in the UK. My constituency of Enfield Southgate has the highest number of people with thalassaemia in the UK and is home to the UK Thalassaemia Society, which campaigns for greater awareness and better health outcomes for people with thalassaemia they've also been given me advice and shared their findings for this debate. The second part of the message for International Thalassaemia Awareness Day is about sharing. And this is about sharing essential information and knowledge to support the best health social care outcomes for people with thalassaemia. The Department of Health and Social Care published their UK Rare Diseases Framework last year, which acknowledged a number of challenges and the government's 4 priorities, which included increasing awareness of rare diseases among healthcare professionals, better coordination of care and improving access to specialist care treatments and drugs, all of which I and the thalassaemia community would very much support. But I want to focus on the last point of improving access to specialist care, treatment and drugs. Thalassaemia is a rare disease, and as such there are very few treatments for this condition. Some gene therapies have been developed but have often not been able to progress beyond the National Institute of Clinical Excellence NICE's criteria because either the formula for QALYs is loaded against people with rare diseases, or else there is a smaller sample of people upon whom the gene therapy trials have been conducted, primarily because people with rare diseases are often in a very small number and this limits who the therapy can be trialled upon. I note that NICE have done their methods and process review, but I asked the Minister to ensure that the highly specialised technology and standard technology appraisal pathways are both fit for purpose for people with rare diseases, and that the uncertainty of cost effectiveness due to small population sizes is a serious consideration for NICE in assessing the appraisal of new gene therapy technologies. Gene therapy and other technologies for people with rare diseases are literally a matter of life and death for those people, and much more work needs to be done by the government to ensure that people with rare diseases are not disadvantaged by the bureaucratic processes that fail to take into account the unique nature and impact of rare diseases on those who have to live with them. The final part of the message is about care, and this is about the experience of people with thalassaemia when receiving health care. I've met a number of people with thalassaemia who've shared their experiences with me and who require regular blood transfusions and have told me about their pain and suffering following transfusions and how debilitating this can be. I've also read testimonies of people with thalassaemia who have experienced differing levels of treatment by health professionals because the condition tends to be extremely specific to a particular ethnic group in the UK. And there are a very small number of patients that UKTS has found, and have found huge disparity between services throughout the country with regards to the accessibility of thalassaemia care.
Would my honourable friend give way?
I'm very grateful to my honourable friend for giving way and for the speech he's making. On the subject of care, I don't know if he's had a chance to read the report from the APPG for sickle cell entitled No One's Listening. It's not exactly the same thing as thalassaemia. There are differences, but there are some similarities too in the experience of people. And does he share my hope that that report will serve as a turning point to win a resolve for better treatment and more understanding of these conditions, all the way from the Department of Health and Social Care itself through the decision makers in the NHS?
My friend makes an excellent point. I am indeed aware of the report and have read it, and he's absolutely right. Much more needs to be done to make sure that people with thalassaemia and sickle cell and other such rare diseases do get the treatment they need, and that it's also about the better training for health professionals to identify the symptoms of thalassaemia and sickle cell and other such conditions, so they're not disadvantaged when they come into contact with health professionals for the first time. According to the UK Thalassaemia Society, the experience of their members is that the UK Thalassaemia services are under-resourced, underdeveloped and understaffed, and even compared to the treatment received by those with other blood disorders. Part of the work that the UK Thalassaemia Society has been involved in over several years is to review sickle cell and thalassaemia units throughout the country and to review all aspects that make up the patient pathway from emergency care to inpatient and outpatient services. There also appears to be evidence of health inequalities between the treatment of patients with thalassaemia and other conditions. As we know, thalassaemia impacts particularly upon specific ethnic groups, such as the British Asian population in the UK. And patients have reported that the Thalassaemia Society, that they often feel that their ethnicity is linked to below standard treatment and have on occasion reported distressing instances of overt racism in connection with their treatments. Distressingly, this has sometimes impacted severely on patients' mental health, with patients describing feeling defeated and, in worst instances, not wanting to live anymore. The UK Thalassaemia Society has also found that patients and families in some cases are afraid to talk to managers and nurses involved about these instances and describe them as as they are fearful that they will receive worse treatment and be stereotyped further. As a result, they've chosen to suffer in silence. Now, this is obviously extremely concerning, and I will happily share more information about this outside this debate with the Minister. But I'm sure that, like me, the Minister will see it as entirely unacceptable that the ethnicity of patients is in any way affecting treatment, or is, in the worst cases, leading to deeply offensive racism. It's also worth noting that whilst thalassaemia affects many ethnicities, though predominantly those of Asian heritage, the average lifespan is considerably lower in the Asian population than in the Mediterranean population. Now, this could be for a variety of reasons. However, there is certainly the worry amongst members of the UK Thalassaemia Society that the racial disparity encountered by their members might be impacting upon their health outcomes. And again, I'd be very grateful if the Minister could take this concern on board and raise it with health professionals. Mr. Hosey, to conclude, I hope that the debate today will help raise awareness about thalassaemia and the particular difficulties faced by patients. I'd like to hear from the Minister how she will work to improve the equal access to care for this community, as well as equal health outcomes. I'd also like to ask the Minister how she believes that we can tackle the explicit and implicit discriminatory attitudes that still exist in healthcare settings. And in concluding, I want to thank the UK Thalassaemia Society, the Genetic Alliance, and the Royal College of Pathologists for providing me with information for this debate. And I hope the Minister will take into consideration the points I've made in this debate and re-evaluate the government's position on thalassaemia and rare diseases to see what more can be done to improve health outcomes for people with thalassaemia and raise awareness of the condition amongst health professionals and the wider public. Thank you, Mr. President.
International Thalassaemia Day 2022. Maria Caulfield, Minister.
Thank you, Mr Hosey. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And can I thank the Honourable Member for Enfield Southgate on securing today's debate and his efficiency in securing it ahead of the 8th of May, which is International Thalassaemia Day. We may well be probed by then. So to table it for today is very timely. And it provides me with an opportunity just to thank him for all the work he's done championing for this community as chair of the All Party Parliamentary Group. And I understand that the UK Thalassaemia Society is based in his constituency, and I'm sure they're very thankful for all his help and support. But like sickle cell, and I note that the Honourable Member for Wolverhampton South East is here as well, thalassaemia is a blood disorder that affects ethnic minority communities in the UK, and it's right that the Honourable Gentleman raises some of the inequality issues and the inconsistencies around services that people with thalassaemia face. And we are determined to address some of these long-standing issues that have existed in many of these areas. A year ago, the NHS Race and Health Observatory...
Order. The sitting is suspended. There are 3 divisions, so that should be for 35 minutes. We will resume at 4:47. Order, order.